Hi everyone, and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
And today we're looking at our Newswatch unit for this month. The first of the two stories we're going to look at is all about kind of like health and fitness, which, to be honest, is something I really should do more of.
Me too. I don't get much exercise in, but...
Yeah, I try to do walking when I can, like if there's a chance to walk home from work or go on a hike with some friends, but it's not a regular, committed, twice-a-week thing.
Right. I do try to cycle to work in the mornings, but only if it doesn't rain and if I'm not carrying a bunch of stuff, so it happens maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
That's still pretty good. That's better than what I've got. So maybe we need to get on to our company, the chaps, the managers upstairs, and get them into this idea of companies doing a fitness exercise thing.
They might like that a bit more than the office rabbit I've been suggesting for a few weeks.
I think they're both good ideas.
Me too.
I don't see why we shouldn't have both an office rabbit and an office fitness program.
Yeah.
I think it could work.
Me too.
Well, let's explain this whole idea of this fitness and how it can work on a company level, and also to see what our second news story is by reading through this article.
Okay. Swedish companies are committed to fitness. Every Friday morning, Swedish fashion company Bjorn Borg shuts down for an hour as its 212 employees attend a compulsory exercise session at a nearby gym. The company has been doing this for 2 years, and the workouts have included boxing, CrossFit, and yoga. The policy's main objective is not just to make employees healthier, but to energize staff and, by doing so, boost productivity and profitability. A 2004 University of Stockholm study found that exercising during the workday reduced work absences by 22%. Communal exercise also fosters camaraderie, as it brings staff together despite department and status divisions. Bjorn Borg isn't the only workplace in Sweden to encourage fitness. In fact, most Swedish companies receive a government subsidy to support their employees' exercise costs. Swedes are famous for their healthy lifestyles and devotion to physical activities. Walking is a common recreational pursuit, and 51% of Swedes hit the gym more than once a week. Outdoor sports such as soccer, tennis, and orienteering are popular as well. As obesity rises throughout the developed world, some places are fighting back. Maybe workplace exercise will soon spread beyond Sweden.
Devices to protect against assault. Physical and sexual assault against women has long plagued humanity, but in recent years, some societies have been taking it more seriously. Recently, 2 devices have been invented to help women: safe shorts and the safer pendant. Safe shorts are secured by straps made of cut-resistant fibers. If an assailant tries to tear them off, a 130 decibel alarm automatically sounds. The alarm can also be set off by pulling on a cord. The safer pendant is made by an Indian startup. It's a button that sounds an alarm and sends the wearer's current location to their emergency contacts. It works in coordination with a smartphone app. However, these safety items are not perfect. The pendant uses Bluetooth technology, so it could be jammed or hacked to track the wearer. Moreover, both devices might reinforce the idea of women as victims. While safety for women is a priority, critics argue that such products merely help people cope with a devastating societal problem rather than stop it. The attitudes that lead to violence against women must be addressed to reduce attacks on a greater scale. All right, so let's go back to our first story, which is where we kind of started our talk today about the Swedish companies who are really trying to make people fit. And the company in question is Bjorn Borg, which is a fashion company named after and started by Sweden's famous tennis star, Bjorn Borg.
Yes.
And we see it every Friday morning. The company shuts down for an hour as its 212 employees attend a compulsory exercise session at a nearby gym.
Must be a big gym.
Must be a nice big gym. A compulsory session. Well, compulsory, this means they have to go. There's no choice about it. It's not like you can or you can't. You can stay at your desk. It's no, everyone has to go. You could also say mandatory.
Yes. And if you don't go, you actually do get fired from the company.
You actually get fired? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's included in the contract.
Right.
So.
Presumably there's, ways if people are particularly sick or have some kind of medical problem that would get them around that sort of thing. But yeah, it's, oh yeah, I'll do that. That sounds fun. It's no, you're doing it.
Right.
And of course, the company shuts down during the session. A session just means a period of time, a spell of time, an exercise session from warming up to doing these exercises to cooling off. Maybe taking a shower afterwards. That's the whole session.
Right. Okay, so they're going to this nearby gym, and they're all going together, and they're doing different kinds of workouts. So over the past 2 years, they've obviously done different workouts, but they've been doing these workouts or these sort of periods of physical exercise, these workout sessions, these exercise sessions, and they've included boxing, CrossFit, and yoga. Now, I'm sure everyone knows what boxing is. It's been around for a few hundred years now, but maybe everyone doesn't know what CrossFit is.
I wasn't completely sure.
Right. Well, I do know of it. I've never done it, but what I do know is that it's high-intensity fitness. So you're constantly moving, and I know you're doing strength training. You're doing different things where you're lifting weights or you're kind of doing brief running sessions,
like so
sort of
sprint
thing.
for a quick bit and then kind of jump into the next thing, stretches or squats before you even kind of calm down sort of thing.
And it's often done as a group. So you sort of get a few people together and like some people will record your times sort of thing, and then the next person will go and you kind of do this thing together.
Okay, so, and that's just one of these different exercises. I'm sure they have others like group cycling, play some, soccer or play another game, whatever. But the main policy of this company is not just to make people healthier, although of course it does, but it's to energize staff. Now, to energize people, you give them energy. You make them feel as though they're kind of fresh and ready to go. You stop them from being tired.
Right.
Now, a lot of people will energize themselves by drinking coffee or maybe having a bit of sugar. That can energize people. Even a good rest, a sleep, can actually energize you. Taking a vacation can do it, but exercise does do it as well.
Yes.
You'll feel a bit tired after you finish, but then you'll kind of feel, right, overall, in the long run, over the course of weeks, you've got more energy than you had when you started doing the exercise.
And maybe that's a good reason that they're doing it on Friday mornings.
Yes, to kind of give you the energy to get through that last day of the week.
Yes. All right, so they're not just doing it to make employees healthier or just to energize staff to kind of get them going, but there's a reason that they are doing this. When you're energizing your staff, you're boosting productivity and profitability. Both these things are good for companies, and what you're doing by boosting them is you're increasing them. So you're increasing it to the point where it's going to make you more successful.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Improving, raising, other words like that. Improve and raise and boost all kind of mean the same thing.
That's right.
Make something higher or bigger or stronger.
And so one of the things that they are boosting here or improving is productivity. Now, you'll know the adjective productive. That means you do a lot of work in a very efficient time. You get a lot of things done, or you sell a lot of things at a very good rate. So it means you're not being lazy. You're sort of getting things done at a really good speed.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So that's what productivity is.
Yeah, productive is the adjective and this is the noun form.
Right. So it's the rate at which you are doing these things. And another thing that you're boosting is profitability. So when a business or an activity makes a profit, there's that noun there, it is the amount of profit it makes. So profitability means that you're making a lot of profit.
Yes, they're just making more money. So basically the employees work harder, get more done, the company sells more things and benefits.
Right.
And there's some science behind this. A study in 2004 by the University of Stockholm, which is Sweden's capital, they found that exercising during the workday reduced work absences by 22%. So people aren't taking time off, maybe because they don't feel they need an extra day to sleep in, maybe because they're tired of work. Maybe it stops them getting colds quite as often. So whatever it is, more people are coming to work, maybe just because they're having fun. And that kind of is the next sentence as well, about communal exercise.
Right.
Communal means as a group or as a community. It means doing it together. And it fosters camaraderie.
Right. So when you foster something, it means that you're helping something develop over a period of time. So this is usually a skill or a talent or even a feeling at some point, or an idea. So what they're doing here is they're trying to develop relationships between the staff. And that's what we mean by camaraderie. Camaraderie is a feeling of friendship between people.
You get it by spending a lot of time together, basically.
Right.
And you accomplish things together. If you work as a team and you get something done, you develop camaraderie. Like, I can trust these people. I can rely on these people. You also get it by doing exercise together. You know, you take a trip together. Maybe you hike up a mountain. You'll have those shared experiences, get to know each other a little better. And as the article says, it brings staff together despite department and status divisions. So maybe sales and marketing, maybe that's two different ones, accounting, human resources, everybody's working together, and status means the managers are working with the employees, the CEO's in there as well. Nobody's kind of different or special, so everyone's kind of together.
Right, and that's a very good thing for any company to have.
Absolutely.
All right, well, this sounds like a great thing for companies to do, and Bjorn Borg isn't the only workplace in Sweden to do it. In fact, it says most Swedish companies receive a government subsidy to support their employees' exercise costs. So what they're doing here, the government is actually giving companies some money to say, give this money to your employees, encourage them to be fit and exercise.
This will pay their gym memberships, their equipment, whatever you need, special trainers and so on. Yeah. So
they're basically just, the government is helping people in the country do these things.
Exactly. It gives the company money and says, spend it on your people and get them fit.
Right.
And this is common, as people may know, Swedes, which is the people from Sweden. A Swedish person is a Swede. They're famous for their healthy lifestyles and devotion to physical activities. So, yeah, I guess I'd heard that. I only know a few Swedish people, but they've always been pretty fit, pretty athletic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again,
I've met.
If I would say anything, it would be a stereotype because I'm not sure.
Not many, but the ones I have. And so they've got healthy lifestyles, they eat well, they do the right things, they exercise, and they have a devotion to physical activities. Devotion is a love and a loyalty and an enthusiasm for a certain thing. It could be a person, it could be a cause. Here, it's an activity. It's physical activities. They love walking or swimming or doing physical stuff, sports or anything that's kind of doing rather than just sitting at home or watching TV.
Right. Now, one thing that a lot of Swedes apparently like to do is walking. It's a common recreational pursuit. Now, recreational is an adjective that describes something that's done for enjoyment. So we know the noun form of this is recreation. So recreational describes sports, games, activities, carnivals, festivals, something that you do for fun, basically.
Yes, it's interesting. And we also see 51% of Swedes hit the gym more than once a week. So never mind the other 49 who maybe just do it once a week. So we can see people are pretty fit. We've now got some popular sports. Soccer is popular in Sweden. Tennis, like Bjorn Borg, kind of set people off on this idea of playing tennis.
Right?
And orienteering.
That's one of my favorites.
I did that at school.
Me too.
It's the idea of sort of having a vague map and a compass and sort of going out into, it could be a neighborhood. We did it in sort of streets and suburbs, but you could also do it in slightly more countrified areas.
Right.
And just sort of finding routes and following the right way and finding markers that have been put on trees and stuff. And basically knowing how to find your way around, not get lost while taking a walk in the outside.
Yeah, I used to do it at summer camp. And so we would go into a forest and we'd have a camp counselor with us and we'd have a compass and a map and we'd have to find our way back to camp through the forest.
So they're all popular. Okay, the final part of this first story says, as obesity rises throughout the developed world, some places are fighting back. Obesity is kind of being overweight to a dangerous level that affects your health, causing heart problems, kidney problems, cancers, various things like that. So people are trying to fight back and do more healthy things. So maybe workplace exercise will soon spread beyond Sweden. I've read about similar things in Germany and I think the Netherlands and a few other European places. They tend to lead the way as far as this goes.
I was going to say once it's popular in Europe, it will kind of start to spread throughout the world.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take a short break now and we'll come back in a moment to talk about our second news story.
Welcome back, everyone. Our second news story is devoted to assault, actually. It's a pretty
serious
topic, one that's been in the news quite a bit over the past year.
Or two, yeah.
Yes. And probably a good idea to talk about. So what we're talking about specifically today is devices to protect against assault. So not just the assault that happens, but things that help protect people against them. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about the word assault. It's a noun and it's the crime of physically attacking someone. Now, there are different kinds of assault. So as we'll see in the first sentence, there's a physical and sexual assault. So they are often combined into one thing. So they usually come together, but they can be separate. So you can just have physical assault where you're hurting someone's body, or there you can be sexual assault where you're committing a sexual crime as well.
And both of these things against women have long plagued humanity.
Right.
Okay. If something plagues humanity, it's a constant bother. It's something that affects a person or a thing over a long period of time in a pretty serious way, like an actual plague.
Right.
Plagues are diseases that tend to kill a lot of people and affect whole regions and countries.
Right.
So we're kind of saying that these things, physical and sexual assault, are like a plague.
Right.
Sometimes there seems to be a big outbreak of them, but they never really go away and they seriously continue to affect people over the long term.
Now, what we're saying, continuing in that sentence, is that in recent years, just like we said introducing this article, some societies have been taking it more seriously. So you'll probably have seen stuff like that happen in Western media, in Europe and in the US and Canada. These things have sort of been in the news a lot, quite a bit. Maybe even in Taiwan.
Yes, obviously you've got things like the Me Too movement that's kind of going around the world, has recently kind of popped up in Korea and Japan and Taiwan.
Right.
There's been a lot of documented cases in India of women being assaulted.
Right.
There's a lot of that you see in the news. So, yeah, it's clearly a problem. And some societies are really starting to go, okay, we've got to put a stop to this.
Right.
In as many, and try different things to try and stop it.
Right.
So two of these things are devices. They're kind of electronic, usually tools, some kind of thing that's been invented
like an
to
instrument.
to help women. We've got safe shorts and the safer pendant. A pendant is a piece of jewelry that hangs from a chain or a cord and is worn around the neck. That's what a pendant is.
Kind of like a necklace.
A little bit, usually with something in the middle.
Yes.
Like a jewel
it
or
has
a
something
ring or a
it.
little photo or something. I mean, here it's a little bit more useful than that, right? And it's not decorative.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's start by talking about the safe shorts. So obviously these are shorts. You wear them the way you would normally wear shorts, except these ones are secured by straps made of cut-resistant fibers. So what we're saying is that when you put these on, it's not so easy to take them off. They're secured, so they're kind of latched or tied on in a certain way. And what they're secured with are these straps made of cut-resistant fibers. Now, a fiber is like a very strong mass of threads or the threads that make up sort of this material.
Yeah. It could be like cloth or denim or leather, or all of those are types of, mostly thread and cloth and wool of fibers.
Right, and they are cut resistant. So that means that you can't sort of take a knife to them and have them cut right off. You can't tear them. So you're not going to be able to tear or cut them off easily.
Yes, and what happens if they do? Well, we see if an assailant tries to tear them off, an alarm will sound. An assailant is someone who commits assault. You'll see a relationship between those two words. It's a person who does it. And if they try and tear these shorts off, a 130 decibel alarm automatically sounds. So a decibel is a measure of sound. And to give you an idea, a regular alarm clock is about 80 decibels.
Okay.
An electric toothbrush is down at 60. The sound of an ambulance siren is 120 decibels. So this alarm is louder than an ambulance siren.
Right, and that's pretty loud.
Yes.
You don't want to hear that go off every day.
Yes. Now, the alarm can also be set off by, instead of just when someone grabs you and pulls at your shorts, you can set them off yourself by pulling a cord.
Right.
To set off means to cause something to activate. We often talk about setting off a fire alarm. That's like you break the glass, you pull the lever. You could set off a firework by lighting the bottom end on fire. It's basically cause it to kind of go active.
Right.
And here you're pulling on a cord, which is like a thick, tough string. So if you think of a life jacket, you will activate a life jacket by pulling a cord and causing it to fill with air. Things like that. You could pull a cord on a trolley or a bus to kind of bring it to a halt. That sort of thing. Here, you pull this tough string and it will cause this loud alarm to go off.
Okay, well, that's an interesting piece of clothing that you could wear. And now we can talk about this safer pendant, which is made by an Indian startup. A startup is just a new company or business, usually who kind of works with tech or computers, but can be basically working with anything. But it's basically a new company that's trying to break into business for the first time.
Yeah, usually with just a sort of one single product or a very specific goal or service in mind to kind of start them off.
Yes.
You know, they're going to start out by making and marketing one, maybe two things, and then build from there.
Right. Now, the pendant here that they're making includes a button. So on sort of the thing that hangs from the pendant, it's going to have a button, and if you press the button, it trigger an alarm. So an alarm will sound. That means we'll set off an alarm. And not only that, the person who's wearing the pendant and presses the button, their information or their location of where they are is going to be sent to their emergency contacts. So maybe your family will have sort of the information sent to their phone.
Yeah, their phone will go off and say, basically, I am here in this place and I'm in a bit of trouble kind of thing, or I don't feel safe.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. Now, to do this, obviously, you can't just have this pendant. You need something that it's attached to. So it works in coordination with a smartphone. So when you do something in coordination with something else, it means that these two things are sort of working together. And coordination itself is just the organization of people or things working together well as a group.
Yeah. So these two items, you might think, well, that sounds pretty good, right? But they're not perfect for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the pendant uses Bluetooth technology, so it's kind of connecting things like I have Bluetooth headphones, for example. I use a Bluetooth mouse at home. But these devices can be jammed, so they'll block from working. The signal will be blocked. Or even hacked, so someone accesses the software, even though it's protected. And so instead of being able to send your location to helpful people, your location will go to people who want to actually hurt and assault you. So that's obviously something that needs to be watched out for. So that's just kind of a technical issue that would need to be sorted. But there's a bit more to it than that.
Right. So there's a bigger underlying problem with devices like these that what it does, it sort of paints women as victims. So it makes women seem like they're always going to be hurt. Now, there is truth to the fact that this does happen to women more than men. So what it's doing is it's sort of reinforcing the idea of women not being able to protect themselves.
Women are vulnerable and shouldn't go to these places on their own, which in a completely fair world, of course they can. It should be stupid.
Exactly.
You know, like, no one should ever have to feel unsafe.
Exactly. Now, this is one of my problems with it, and I'm kind of glad that it says this in the article. So it says, while safety for women is a priority, that means it's very important. It is something that we should consider before other things. Critics argue that such products merely help people cope with a devastating societal problem instead of stopping the problem, instead of educating people about assault and why we shouldn't do it and working on better ways of teaching people not to make others feel unsafe. We're just trying to put a Band-Aid on the problem.
Exactly. Yes. It's kind of saying, well, we can't stop people assaulting you, so we'll just make it easier for you to escape from them or stay safe. It's like saying, well, people get cold, so we'll give them cold medicine.
Exactly.
Which is fair enough, but maybe stopping people getting colds in the first place might be good.
Exactly. So wash those hands, and if you feel sick, stay in bed.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's look at a couple of the vocabulary words in there. First, we looked at critic. Now, a critic is someone who criticizes, that's the verb form, or gives criticism, that's the noun. So it basically is saying, well, there might be some good things of one thing, but here are some bad things about it. So a critic is someone who brings up the bad things about something. So yes, there are really good things to say about these shorts, but the critics want you to know that there are some bad things we should also consider.
Yes.
Yep.
We got the phrasal verb cope with. Cope with means the same as deal with.
Yes.
And it's basically like there is a problem and you just sort of have to do whatever you need to do to manage that problem and get past the problem and overcome and solve the problem. Now, this problem is described as devastating. Devastating means really bad, means terrible, horrible, that kind of thing. Causes great pains to a lot of people, causes anguish and causes sadness. And it's a societal problem. Societal is the adjective form for society. So a societal problem is a problem with society.
Right.
So again, the idea here is if this is a problem, do something to stop people assaulting each other.
Right.
Educate people and find better ways, not just come up with some kind of cure for when it does happen.
Right, exactly. All right, so here to finish off the article, it says the attitudes that lead to violence against women must be addressed to reduce attacks on a greater scale. And basically what we're just saying there is exactly what we said before. Instead of just trying to cover up the problem with a device, we need to address the attitudes that people have about it. So we need to go into schools or have public service announcements.
Yes.
Or just
parents need to educate children, like, don't do this.
Right.
This is wrong.
Right.
And so on.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our Newswatch article for this month. Hopefully we've given you some things to think about, as well as some useful English. Thank you very much for listening. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
Speak to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.